Hi everyone, this is Kyle with K Debate. You may notice a slight change in the quality of my camera and microphone. I have a new laptop and I will be attempting to make more videos soon. The video I wanted to make today is going to be on, I tried making a video with a camera earlier, so what I wanted to make this video about is something I said in a previous video about Gandhi. I said I look up to him as what he's trying to do and hand gestures, what he was trying to do, and I looked into it a little bit, and I have much more to learn about him. But from this initial view I got was that there's a lot of stuff that wasn't publicized or that didn't become popular, and this other view of him, mostly from movies and from just public publicity, is that he was actually kind of racist and actually kind of Hitler supporter. So I'm still looking into that. The thing I was reading had excerpts from some of the things that he wrote, so I'm not sure. And what I need to say is that this is going to be the point of the entire video I'm making, is the perceived view of a person being used by the public or within the public is really important. And when I try to make a point and use somebody as an example, I need to know who I'm using as an example. But I also need to know what people think of the person I'm using as an example, because I can't just look up to somebody based off of one or two things they did. Because if you look at that same person and see him for these other reasons, whether they're legitimate or not, if they're different, then I need to know. I need to understand what that difference is. Otherwise, I can be completely right or wrong, but if your view of that person is different, then my comments are lost. My reasoning isn't understood as well when I'm trying to use them as an example. So regardless of if he is a good person or a bad person, or just a person in general, I was trying to use him as the popular public view in America, which is that he is pretty much a martyred spiritual leader of purity and chastity and goodness and nonviolence and all these things. But from what I was learning, he in other countries and even other parts of America, the more you learn about him, the less good he looks. So I'm not saying that's true or not, because I don't know enough about it, but I can't just say stuff. I need to look into things. And it's very important for me to know what I'm talking about. So I wanted to point out that when I say Gandhi, what I mean is the example of what is positive in regards to Gandhi. Because I don't know the rest, and I should. But I don't think a lot of people know the rest, and they should. So it's a little confusing on how I progress with this train of thought, because if I just use Gandhi as a negative example now because of what I've been reading, I'll offend a lot of people, and they won't agree. They won't. And it's not about agreeing, but it'll confuse people. It's like, what is all this new information? And I'm trying to use that example for a different argument, so all it does is undermine the arguments I'm making. So do I have to tell you guys where I'm coming from every single time I mention somebody? Because if I support this guy and then it turns out that he's a jerk, but I don't know, or that he did something that I didn't know about, and I'm connecting my argument to that person, then it undermines my argument instead of augmenting it. And, well, technically it's still augmenting, but it's not in a positive way. So I need to figure out where I don't want to use gray areas. I want to use fact. but not everyone perceives the same thing in the same way. So I mean, I can say Gandhi, and everyone in the world has a different view. Most of them are either going to be extremely positive or extremely negative, apparently. So I can't just say Gandhi anymore. I can't just say anybody anymore. I came to realize that there is a lot of differing opinion on different people, and well, I shouldn't worry too much about people's opinion versus what actually happened, but I don't know what actually happened. And also, if it undermines what I'm trying to say, then yes, I should worry about it. Not just in a way that's negative to me, but in a way that, I'm actually trying to help people. So if my arguments and my reasoning is undermined by a misunderstanding or a misconception or bad information or brainwashing or propaganda or some skewed image of reality from either me or the viewers, then that undermines what I'm trying to do, and that is help people. So I need to figure out how to do this. I need to figure out how to have factual information objectively spoken, reasoned out, with examples, and not undermine my own arguments with things that, I mean, the ball isn't all black or all white. It's a million shades of gray because everyone, I mean, it could just be all black or all white, but that's not how people are going to see it. And objectively, that means that my argument will be undermined somewhere. So it's a million shades of gray being viewed. So I need to figure out how to deal with this without undermining my own views. That's even more important than expressing my views to me. So I'm never gonna compromise my views for any reason. So this whole Gandhi thing has gotten me a little confused. I've been trying to figure out how to express this without offending. Well, it's not so much about offending, but of distancing and other people from what I'm trying to say. I don't know if he was a good person. I don't know if he deserves being called a saint. I don't know. So I'm trying to not say for or against because, even if he was a bad person, he's still having a positive influence on the world. And, well, after he died, I don't know about when he was alive, but people use him as an example of good. And those are good. So I'm trying not to alienate that. I'm not trying to tear that down because that's not something you should tear down necessarily. If it's not true, then it should definitely be looked at more critically, but for the general people using it as a means of philosophy or how people should live or anything like that, those are good things. So I would never try to tear those down. I'm trying to find the area to be in this. It's really, really hard to be perfectly objective, perfectly reasonable, and not misunderstood at all. So using examples is the easiest way to do that, but also using examples that aren't completely known to me or you is problematic. So this video is about me attempting to reason out how to deal with people's differing views of things that are not clear and or might completely be false. I don't know. So what I'm going to try to do is explain the differences between real objectivity, subjective views of a thing, how interpretation is handled, and just overall the process. So let's say I have I need to shave a screwdriver. Okay, let's say I have this screwdriver and I say this is a really good screwdriver. It does everything I need it to do, and I'm going to use this as an example of a screwdriver that is the best kind of screwdriver. I'm just going to use it as an arbitrary example. I doubt this is the best kind of screwdriver. Um, but let's say I'm trying to make an argument on tools, and I say, well, this is a pretty good screwdriver, and people look at it and they're like, well, what kind of brand is it? What's it made of? What's this? These are all objective things. You can say, and then you can see how it's put together. It has this little clip on it, so you can put it on your tool belt, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty cool, and I think it slides off. I'm not sure. I can't get it off, so I'm not going to try. Oh yeah, it snapped off, or at least it spins. But I can say this is really good. And then somebody can come along and they can have a counter argument that's objective, and they can say, well, it's not made of this material, or it conducts electricity too much, or its handle should be reinforced so it doesn't snap, and this little clip actually hurts your hand when you're trying to really be tight on it, and it should be removable, and there's, you know, things that you can make it better. But then there's the view that this is actually a terrible screwdriver, and I'm using it wrong, and I should get this other kind, and you know, those can also be objective, but that doesn't mean both of us are wrong. It could just be that for the things I'm using it for, it's perfect. This is a tiny screwdriver. It's not meant for heavy-duty stuff. It's pretty much used for electronics. So if it did have an insulated handle and it was non-conductive material, and the argument of magnetized tips versus non-magnetized tips and stuff like that, those can all be objective. But you can have an objective object, something that you can see, touch, feel, smell, taste, whatever, and you can have the most reasonable arguments in the world with somebody about this tool. I mean, this isn't even a changing thing. People change, but this is non-changing. And you can mass produce these things. There could be a billion of these things running, not running around, but circulating. You can have a comment about this, saying this is a good screwdriver, and somebody else can say, no, it's a terrible screwdriver. Both of those are subjective. But you can have objective reasonings for your opinions, because in the end, your opinion on this undermines, or I really should just say augments, because augments can be positive or negative. It augments my argument. If my argument is about a whole bunch of tools, and then I say something about this, and you disagree what I have about this, it undermines my argument. That's what I mean. So if you disagree with what I say about one thing, it damages everything I said before or after about everything, and especially about something that's specifically related. As an example of a tool set I bought, and this was part of it, and I was like, this is one of the reasons the tool set is good, but you don't like this. And opinion differing doesn't mean that there is a failure to use reason or a failure to communicate. A differing reason, a different opinion can simply be a different foundation. And foundation is something that you cannot manipulate. You can't just change your foundation, because your foundation is literally your entire life. You can change really fundamental things, such as religious views, political views, where you live in the world, what you support in the world. There's a lot of base stuff you can reevaluate and change, but generally 99.9% of the time those aren't going to change because of an argument related to these kinds of things. So if I were to say I really like this because it fits my hand well, and when I used it, it worked perfectly for what I needed it to, and I loved it, and blah blah blah, but when you used it, it snapped in half and cut your finger and just broke whatever you were working on, you're gonna hate this thing. You're gonna hate it for a legitimate reason, in that it didn't do what you wanted it to do, it didn't work the way you wanted it to work, or even in a lesser example is you just have a better tool, or you've used a better tool, or you just don't like the color, or something. There's going to be some reason why your opinion of this will differ to mine. And that doesn't mean both of us, or one of us, it doesn't mean one of us is wrong. It could just be that you don't like it and I don't like it. Or I like it. You don't like it, I like it. I don't like it, you like it. Whatever the combination. And there's a trillion people, pretty much. So there's going to be a trillion opinions, I should say. There isn't a trillion people. But this... Well, let me plug my laptop in. There. This example of a tool, a static item that doesn't move, doesn't do anything, doesn't change physically, emotionally, whatever. It's not even in charge of its own actions, so to speak. So how can we have a differing opinion on something using a reasonable argument? Well, I went over that in one of my other videos, in that the foundation and our view of this, whatever it is, can differ simply because we have a different value system. And it's okay. Anyway, I'm going to put that down because I've been playing with it. So if you have a different view of in value system, just press the mute button. No, the mute button on the computer. It's gonna keep opening up. Okay, anyway, I lost my train of thought. Oh, the value system. When you value something differently than somebody else, that doesn't mean one of you is wrong. Could be. One of you could be wrong, but it doesn't mean you are. And a value system, I'm pretty sure I talked about this already in a different video. I can say that X is really important, and that Y is not as important as X. But you can say, well, Y is more important because of this. And then I can say, well, Y is more important because of this. And then you're like, well, I don't value Y. I don't put as much emphasis on the reason why you like X. I put much more value in the reason I like Y. And it's not that you have completely different reasoning faculties. It just means that you have a different foundation in your value system. And that's really, really important to know. To know where someone's coming from. And I've said that a lot too. To know where somebody's coming from means you know at least the basis of their value system. I don't mean stereotypes. I don't mean, what's the other word? Profiling. I don't mean those. Though that is technically what it is. It's like knowing that somebody came from an abusive house. It's like knowing they came from a really rich family. It's like knowing they came from this part of the world, or that city, or this place, and you can generally know that there are certain things that they're going to value based off of the way they were brought up, or brought themselves up, or in whatever way. They might value hard work over actual monetary value, or vice versa. They might extremely value somebody who's independent, or somebody who's really good at working in groups, or somebody that's really good at, quelling arguments, or who's really strong and can take care of himself, or just those are just physical qualities, qualities in a person, as opposed to qualities in an object or qualities in a concept. What are the implications of what you're promoting or advocating or fighting? And those implications, everything has infinite implications in every way. This has no implications in almost any way except on a personal level, and people still argue about it. So what about, I can give a good example. What about internet providers? Which one's the best one? That would spark huge arguments everywhere: speed, price, customer service, um, consistency. There's a whole bunch of different things. But now, what about oh, what was that called? Um, it was that thing where they were trying to limit the use of internet to actually charge people per megabyte or whatever it was. It was called, I want to say PETA. That's not right at all. Well, whatever it was called. You guys will know. You're from the internet. Um, people were trying to put a cap on the internet for different reasons, and it fell through. It didn't work out for the people trying to advocate it. But what were the implications for and against? Well, there were a lot. There were implications of limiting negative things, having some oversight so that bad things didn't happen as often through the internet. It would allow for companies to have faster internet, though at a higher price. Um, it would pretty much standardize internet and all these things. But then on the other side, censorship, illegal. Excuse me. Not illegal, but I just realized I didn't plug my laptop in. There. Ah, sorry. Just the controlling of information is a really big thing. And some people are like, well, safety is much more important than freedom. And that is one of the biggest ones in the entire world. That is one of the biggest arguments. What's more important? Where's the line? Everyone has a different one. Everyone has a different place, and even gray areas within those places that they are willing to compromise one or the other for the other side. Um, Gun control, immigration, terrorism, war, freedom of speech, um, free trade, just the freedom of information. How far is too far? How much is a human right? What is a human right? All kinds of stuff. So that's what I'm trying to say in this is everyone, I mean, you can have the exact same argument and have a completely different outcome because of where you value things within the argument, or even bringing stuff that's not in the argument into it because you say, well, this over here is important. And that could be a different reasoning faculty, but it's still part of an argument, so you have to incorporate it at least a little bit into your rebuttal to have any effect on the person you're talking to. Otherwise, they'll just keep pointing at that thing over there. It's like, why aren't you addressing this? So you have to understand their value system. You have to be able to say, well, I don't understand why that is important to you, but I'll address it. I'll try to see where you're coming from and respond. So I've had that happen before where people have said, I've been talking about this very specific thing, and then they bring in this other thing, and I was like, wait, what? And I have to stop because I can't just dismiss it because they brought it up. And I was like, why is that important? And I'll ask them usually, why is this important? What aspect of what you just said in this other thing related to what we were just talking about? And then they'll usually give a reason, or they'll give a very basic explanation. Usually they don't want to go too in depth because, to most people what they say is just, of course this is the way it is. And that's not necessarily a bad thing with common stuff, but in the more specific, the very, very detailed stuff, it's kind of important to do in more depth. Because you may say, yeah, that's common. Everyone knows that, but everyone doesn't know that. So, especially your connection. Nobody knows your connection to these two topics. They can assume, but that's never a good thing. It speeds things up, but that's like going really fast on the highway. It's not good. You'll get there faster, but generally it's much messier. And a lot easier to have a hiccup. The faster you go, the worse a hiccup is. Instead of a bump, you go flying off the road. That's how arguments happen. And so I'm trying to, again, I'm trying to understand, is it more important to completely inform people of where I'm coming from every time I bring up something? So when I bring up Gandhi, I have to say the common accepted view of him in America, the view of him as a martyr, the view of him as not a martyr. I can't use him as an example if I don't know him, but I also shouldn't use him as an example if you don't know him. And if I don't know him, and I'm trying to know him, I can't just expect you to know him. That's not right of me to do to you, because then, what am I informing you of? I'm giving you so much work that I can't expect you to do that. So that's what I'm saying is, I can say a billion positive things about how people should act and use Gandhi as an example, and then somebody who actually knew him said he wasn't like that, and it just undermines everything I just said to that person. But is that my fault? Yeah. It kind of is, if that's how that person actually was. Or if I just don't accept the common and don't explain where I'm coming from in regards to my view of Gandhi. If he was a bad person, if I say that a lot, if I say that about a lot of stuff, if maybe if I don't even know how to say it other than if, just if it's different than what I say it is, or if you perceive it as different than I say it is, or if I'm wrong. There's too many factors for me to control them. I can't control it, but information should be explained in a way that I'm not just throwing stuff at a wall and you not know why. It's like, is he saying these things on purpose? Does he mean this, or does he mean this and he just said it wrong? When he used that as an example, I think of this other thing, and it just doesn't connect to what he was trying to say in my mind. So I'm giving you more work. But if I put too much emphasis on explaining where I'm coming from, that takes too long, and it again undermines my argument, because now I'm spending this tangent explaining this one aspect of an example that I used for this argument that's part of this other argument that was just one bullet point of a rebuttal with this other person's comment, and it takes too long, and you can't do that because people fall asleep. And you can't do that because if people aren't understanding what you're saying just because it's too long-winded, or it's not, being too clear makes it so it's not clear in a lot of ways. I can go, no, here's a good example. If I went into the molecular construction of this, like, this is made of a tungsten nickel alloy, and then I say the numbers of this, and its melting point is at this, and this is at this. You don't know what I'm talking about sometimes. I'm just like, what is its electroconductivity and its PSI before it breaks, and it's designed to shatter in chunks, but then they're if you heat them with this, it'll go back together, and it's after a while getting too informative becomes problematic, because it's not, but it's still relevant to why I would say this is really good, but you don't know that information about the one you have. You don't care. Generally, it's a screwdriver. You probably bought it for like $10. After a while, too much information just becomes ridiculous. And if I were to bring up the actual factual, accepted, fully known, or maybe obscure information from people I'm using as examples, it can do that. It can say, well, I don't I don't even care kind of thing. It's like I don't care if that's what happened. I'm going off of, my view of him, not this is biographical history and all this. He once shook hands with this person, so he's affiliated with that, and you won't value it. You would much rather value the iconic symbol that they represent. And there's nothing wrong with that in itself. I mean, if you use that as a reason for doing something bad, then yes. But generally, I would never scoff at a good reason to do something. I would never scoff at a reason to do something good. Um, if somebody who has the worst reason ever for doing something good, I wouldn't scoff at them. I would try to explain to them a better reason to do something good, but that's like spitting in somebody's face, pretty much. I mean, they did something good. They did it for a bad reason, but people got helped by it, and I don't know. That's a really weird area to be in. So hopefully, I don't get put into that situation. I just wouldn't scoff at them. I wouldn't brush them off. I'd talk to them. Doesn't mean I would agree with their reasoning, but the outcome was good. So there's that. Anyway, this video is 31 minutes long. I hope I explained at least a little bit of what I was trying to say. I'm going to look into Gandhi more. I'm going to look into a lot of the people I want to use as examples more. And I will be making more videos. Not today, but just in general. So I hope this worked out well. I hope my microphone is good. So take care.